All right, hey everybody, this is Rosh, and you're watching FM9 Basics. This is a tutorial series I'm putting together to help new and experienced users program all their Fractal products. This video series in particular is dedicated to the FM9. If you want to watch some other tutorials, feel free to watch them on this YouTube channel, or you can go to axfxbasics.com, fm3basics.com, or fm9basics.com. So a little about myself. Once again, my name is Rosh, and I'm a guitar player and guitar tech out here in the LA area. I build and program a lot of guitar rigs for a lot of different clients. Some of my clients include Steve Vai, Leppard, Melissa Etheridge, Bush, A Perfect Circle, and more. So I wanted to give back to the Fractal community and show some tips and tricks on how to program all the Fractal products. So if you've been watching this video series, the most recent videos that I've been putting up are all live setups, and basically how to use the FM9 live in a lot of different situations. One of the advantages of all the Fractal products, and the FM9 included, is that you have a lot of flexibility in how you're going to amplify your guitar tone live. So as a working musician in LA, I'm always presented with a lot of different, type of amplification challenges and amplification options. So some gigs I'm playing, the corner of a bar. Sometimes I'm playing like a really large stage. Sometimes I'm playing indoors. I'm playing outdoors. Sometimes there's backline, so I have to use I'm using the amp that's provided by the venue. Sometimes I'm going to be on in-ears. Sometimes it's going to be what's called a silent stage. So the only thing you're going to hear is maybe the drums. It might even be V drums. There's so many different situations. And the thing is that all the Fractal products really excel in giving you a lot of different options. So what I'm going to be doing in this particular video is going over how to use the FM9 with a backline guitar amp, meaning that the amp is already there, provided by the venue, and then also using in-ears. And then you can do a combination of doing both. You can also run direct to front of house, and you have independent control of all three of the options. It's a really great flexible setup. So this particular situation, I'm going to be playing, a morning corporate outdoor event, and this type of gig, they are providing a backline. So, they let the band know ahead of time there's going to be a sound engineer. They're going to bring the PA, they're going to provide drums, bass amp, guitar amp, and it's already going to be there and set up when the band arrives on site. So now with these kinds of situations, you don't know the sound engineer. Obviously it's not a venue. We're playing outdoors, like, in kind of like downtown Long Beach. And with these type of situations, you're literally meeting the engineer like, an hour before you start playing or whatever, depending on, the logistics. So in this case, I don't want to bog down the sound engineer with having them like dial in my mix perfectly, because they're also going to have to dial in the mix for the singer, the bass player, the drummer, and any other instrumentation you would have. So I opted to go with a setup that is going to offer me ultimate flexibility, that I can dial in my mix on the fly, on stage, without having to flag the sound engineer down and, ask them for more vocals in my mix. This is a very common situation with a lot of clients that I have, where they're always like, well, how am I going to do things on the fly? What if I don't know the engineer? What if I don't have a lot of time? So these types of setups are really great when you're going to have, maybe multiple bands playing the same stage, and you have to get your gear on and get your gear off, all these kinds of things. So I wanted to go over really quickly my, main preset that's going to be used for this type of setup. So in this case, so what's going to happen is, first off, you want to, and I talked about this in a previous video, but you want to go to Setup, and what I'm doing is in this Audio tab right here, I'm actually copying Output 1. So coming out of Output 1 and Output 2 is going to be a clone of each other. Now, I'm using this copy left to right on both of these because I run mono. Again, for this type of situation, I'm not going to have the luxury of running stereo or anything. Who knows if the sound engineer is going to have enough time to dial something like that in. And again, I'm also going to be bringing in-ears, so I want to make sure that I can just like set up really quickly, get my sound in my ears, get my sound on stage, and then, set up really quickly and still be able to adjust on the fly if I need it. So I'm copying output 1. So coming out of output 2 is also going to be a carbon copy of output 1. I'll go over that and why that's important in a second. And then output 3, I'm going to use 0 dB, and then I'm going to make sure copy in. This input is off, and then again I'm running mono. Output 3 is a 1/4 inch cable, and that's going to be going to the backline amp. So output 1 is going to be going to front of house. Output 2, and you don't see an output 2 block here, is just a copy of that. This is going to go to my in-ears. And then output 3 is going to go to the backline amp. So you get the direct sound with output 1, the in-ear sound with output 2, and then the backline guitar amp out of output 3. And the cool thing is you can turn up each of these knobs up and down independently on the unit to adjust the volume as you need it. So if you need more guitar in your ears, turn output 2 up. If output 1, I usually set at sound check and I just leave it alone the whole gig. This, I can just crouch down and turn it up or down if I need it. And then of course, this is going to the backline amp. I always recommend that you go output 3 fully clockwise. That means it's unity gain. And then if you're using a backline amp, you can turn up the volume on the amp if you need more stage volume. All right. So now the rest of this setup, I'm not going to, there's not going to be a lot of playing. I'm just going to quickly go over it. We got a compressor. This is just, I turn this on in some of my clean sounds if I'm using like single coil pickups with like the out of phase position 2 and 4 on a Strat, or if I'm using any split coil stuff on like a Les Paul. This compressor just adds a little bit of volume and also kind of like evens out the sound, so it's about the same volume as the humbucker pickup or the single coil pickup. And I just use it to even out the volume. Now, you may be wondering why I have 2 wah blocks here. One is like your standard wah that's going to be controlled with an expression pedal. This other wah is an envelope filter, and that's just more for like funky, quacky things. And then I have a drive block here, standard overdrive. It's going to be different depending on what scene I'm on. So, my clean scene, I have the BB preamp, Andy Timmons, and then this one is the clone, aka the Klon. And then I got this pitch block here. This is mainly for a detuned chorusing type of effect. And then I got my amp block here. And basically what I'm doing is I have 4 separate sounds. So I have a clean sound, a crunch sound, a mid-gain sound, a high-gain sound, and then this lead sound. So the clean sound's kind of like a Fendery clean. The crunch sound's kind of like a Voxy crunch. And then the mid-gain is kind of like a Marshall-y rock rhythm thing. The high-gain is just another Marshall-y, but a more high-gain Marshall sound. And then the lead sound is, of course, like a rock lead sound. And then this lead plus plus is basically the same exact lead sound with just more gain, if I need to go into like full shred mode. And then I have a volume pedal here, and then these are all my time-based effects. This is just, again, I'm controlling this with my expression pedal. If I need to, dial back the volume a little bit or do any type of volume swells, I can do that. I have 2 separate types of delays, and they're just different delay types, different delay sounds. One's like a long delay, one's a short delay. And then I can, do some swells and some cool stuff with that. There's a pretty standard reverb. This is just on all the time. Just adds a little bit of depth. This filter block right here is just a volume boost if I need it. Just to, have parts poke out if I need to get louder, about 3 dB. Now, here is the most important part of this preset. As you can see, I'm going with a cab block here to output 1. And so what's going to happen is that output 1 and output 2, because I have this copy left right setup, is going to front of house. Okay, output 1's going to front of house, and then this is also sending cab simulation into output 2 because I'm using this copy output 1 thing here, and that's going to my in-ears. Now, what you'll notice is I'm splitting off before the cab block right here, and the reason why you want to do that is so you don't send cab simulation out of output 3 into the backline guitar amp. So if you are presented with a situation where they go, hey, we're going to have a guitar amp ready there for you, and you want to use, the amp modeling of any of the Fractal units, and in this case the FM9, you want to make sure that you don't send cab simulation to this output. And the reason why is it gives it kind of like this woofy, weird kind of low end tone. If you go back through my YouTube channel, you'll see that I go over the same exact setup with an Axe FX3 using a power amp, and it's the same idea. Because this output 3 is either going to go into the effects return of the backline amp, it could go into a power amp on stage. It's going to be powering a cabinet. So if you have like a Matrix power amp, a Seymour Duncan power amp, this would go out of output 3 without any cab simulation into the power amp, into the guitar cabinet on stage. Because of the situation, I'm going to be using a backline guitar cabinet. A backline guitar amp that's already provided by, the event. I'm just going to go either into the front of the amp or through the effects loop. And, I won't really know until I get there. But generally you should go through the effects loop, but if the amp doesn't have an effects loop, go through, the front of the clean channel. And different amps, you can set them up different ways to get the most neutral sounding input sound. Usually it's something along the lines of cranking the mid knob all the way fully clockwise, turning the treble, bass, presence, and everything else down, and then trying to keep the gain at a respectable kind of clean sound. And this type of situation, again, works really great if you have a backline amp. Obviously, if you're bringing your own power amp and guitar cabinet, you can also run it this way. And then you have both the front of house sound going out of output 1, the cabinet sound going out of output 2 because it's cloned, and that's going into the in-ears, and then this is going into the the power amp and the guitar cabinet or the backline guitar amp. Now, going out of output 2, as some of my previous videos shown, you don't need to go into in-ears. You can, of course, go into a full range flat response cabinet as well. So that's another option for this type of setup. One goes to front of house, the other one goes to your full range flat response cabinet. Whether you're running mono or stereo, just assume that there's I'll put a fake output 2 block here. So these two would go to the front of house, this goes to the full range cabinet, and this goes to the power amp and cabinet or the backline guitar amp. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to transition this video to when I actually get on site, and I'm going to kind of walk through some of the strategies and some of the things that I do so that I can dial in my own mix live. I can just crouch down and turn a knob up or down if I need anything, whether I need more guitar, if I need more of the mix for my monitor mix, more vocals and everything like that, without ever having to bother the sound engineer. And it's really, really convenient. I can either do it even in the middle of a song or in between songs. I just crouch down and turn the knob up. So with the output 3 knob, you want to make sure you're turning that all the way fully clockwise so it is unity gain. And then the output 1 and 2 knobs, you can just turn them up to taste. I usually leave them around noon or less, and then once I get a healthy signal to front of house as well as my in-ears, I can just kind of go from there. All right, so I'm going to transition this video to the next one, and then we'll go over everything as I get on site at the event.
All right, everybody. Greetings from Long Beach, California. So we're going to do a little rig rundown live here. This is going to be kind of a cool little hybrid setup that I wanted to hip you guys to. So here's what's happening. So I got my FM9, I got my expression pedals right here. Now, I got my in-ear setup right here, and this is Shure PSM 200. And basically what I'm doing is I'm coming out of output 2 right here, output 2, going into input 1 of the Shure PSM 200. And then the second input actually a feed from front of house, so this would be the monitor mix. And the cool thing is, since you have 2 knobs here on the PSM 200, they're independently controlled. I can turn up just my guitar, which is on the left input, or I could turn up the mix coming from front of house on the right input. So this is like my monitor mix, and I can independently adjust this mix with those 2 knobs, or I can even turn up just output 2 right here to get more guitar in my in-ear mix right here. And then this is, of course, sending to body pack, and then I'm using my JH Audio JH16s. Then the other thing that I'm doing is I'm coming out of output 1 right here, and I'm going direct to front of house, and that's going to be controlled by the output 1 knob right here. And last but not least, I actually have output 3 going, and it's going from this humbuster cable right here to this backline Fender Twin. So whenever you get like a backline amp or anything like that, we can use like, go direct into the front of this or go into the effects loop. So since most Fender Twins don't have an effects loop, what we're going to do instead is we're just going to go into the normal input. And these are pretty common settings that basically from Cliff Chase, he was saying, hey, if you want to get your Fender Twin neutral that works with like your Fractal, turn the treble all the way down, turn the mids all the way to 10, and then add bass to taste. We're playing outdoors today, so I need a little bit more low end, but I'm still using my in-ear mix. But this is just for a little bit of stage volume so the drummer and everybody else on stage can hear me. This wedge is also, blasting a little bit of stage volume as well. Again, we're playing outdoors here. So, but really quick, the key to this is that if you look in a setup video that I had, we're cloning output 1 and 2. So output 2 have cab simulation, and then output 3 does not have cab simulation. And basically what I'm doing is I'm splitting a shunt off before I get to the cab block, and then I get all this set up. So this is a really super flexible setup. I can adjust my in-ear mix, independently of the front of house mix by just turning up the output 2 knob, or if I need more of my in-ear mix, I can just turn up that right side knob coming from my monitor mix. The left side knob here on the Shure PSM is for just the guitar. And then the output 1 I'm going to leave alone. That's going to be just for front of house. And then output 3 is going to be for the Fender Twin that's backlined behind me, and then that's if I need more stage volume. Of course, I can make all my adjustments here with my volume and expression pedals, and then of course I can always reach back here and turn up the amp. So really, really great monitor setup, a really cool hybrid setup where you can use in-ears, you're using a backline amp, and you're still running direct to front of house, and you can have a lot of flexibility with a setup like this.
All right, everybody. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for dealing with some of the audio while I was on site. Obviously, it was really loud there, so I was kind of having to yell into my lav mic a little bit. If you guys have any topics you want me to cover in the future, by all means, feel free to leave a comment. And then if you have any other questions, feel free to contact me directly. I do a lot of client work, a lot of client sessions, a lot of one-on-one help. You can contact me directly for that. And in the meantime, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Thanks.
I'm falling with you, I'm standing with you, got it all in my hands, but I don't know how to breathe. I'm walking outside.